Hello and welcome to Asia Gaming Brief's face-to-face series. Today I'm talking with Samuel Wilson, who is the CEO of TKHS, a global logistics company focused on the hospitality industry. We're going to be talking about their expansion in Vietnam, as well as some of the challenges that the industry is facing right now. Thank you very much for joining us today, Samuel. I wonder whether we could start off by telling us a little bit about what you actually do at TKHS.
TKHS, this stands for Turnkey Hospitality Services. It's my company. I established this almost 10 years ago. And basically, we are supporting casino, but also hotel developers in getting their properties open in terms of logistics services. So if somebody is building a new property, we will get involved for transporting all of the items that they need, from gaming equipment to furniture to bed sheets to glassware, organizing all of those deliveries from wherever they are coming from around the world. So dealing with the different suppliers, the vendors that they're buying from, organizing the shipping arrangements, whether it's sea freight, air freight, trucking, managing the customs clearance. That's a very important part in the process, which varies from country to country. So we oversee that. And more often than not, we also set up a warehouse specifically for each project to receive everything into. And then we can deliver to the site just in time to fit the schedule. And we also provide an installation service for many items.
What would you say the biggest challenges have been for you when it comes to the gambling and hospitality industry?
In general, it's a very demanding industry, especially the gaming industry is very demanding in terms of time frame. That will be the biggest challenge, that everything just needs to happen now. Often decisions are made late. In terms of the logistics planning, there's a lot of discussion about design and other types of planning for the project, but the logistics can be underestimated sometimes, and it's often kind of late in the game that this comes to a head and they realize they need to actually plan for the logistics. And so we're often brought in quite late, maybe 12 months out from the opening. And the biggest challenge by far would be working to the time frame that the developers have. But that's also the business we're in, and we've adapted to that. And it's not the first time we've done these things as well. So we have established procedures and processes and an experienced team and good systems. So we're well equipped to deal with that.
So you mentioned working across several Asian countries. Do they all have their own unique sets of challenges? Which would you say was the more demanding?
They definitely do all have their own sets of challenges. Maybe if I start with Macau, I used to live there and done many projects in Macau over the years. There, probably the number one challenge is the manpower, the resources in terms of people. So especially finding people to do our kind of work, for working in a warehouse or driving trucks or doing installation on a site. It's not the most desired job there. So in Macau, that's been by far the biggest challenge. But in the other countries, I'm in the Philippines here at the moment. The infrastructure here is pretty weak. So everything from starting at the port and the airport, the port is not too bad, but the airport is certainly has limited capacity and is a little bit more complicated to deal with than in other countries. And then the whole road network here, finding good quality warehouses, these kinds of things, and also the weather conditions. We have typhoons, earthquakes, everything, volcanoes, tsunamis, everything is hitting here. So that's also one of the big challenges here. As for which country is the most challenging, I'd probably say Philippines and Vietnam. These two together. Vietnam is also not an easy place to work. Customs clearance is very challenging there. There's a lot of special requirements. So that's also a reason why we did this joint venture there actually. Is over the years I'd realised it's important to have a good, strong setup on the ground and a team that's well connected with all the relevant authorities there. So that's why we actually did that. So probably these two countries are the most challenging, I would say.
You just mentioned you're expanding in Vietnam. Tell us a bit more about that and why you see Vietnam as being perhaps one of the most promising destinations in terms of growth in Asia.
Yeah, it was just from my own kind of market research, and I attend various events and things, not only for gaming but also for hospitality. And the three countries that kept coming up were Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines. These three countries, it had been emphasised that there was a lot of development, and we also have a contract, say, with Marriott Hotels, which is the biggest hotel company in the world. And also looking at their pipeline, we also see, okay, there's a lot going on and a lot coming up in these countries. So, and specifically for gaming, also in Vietnam, we really saw a lot happening there, from Hoi An to, expansions in Ho Tram and Phu Quoc and these things. So, it was very clear that's somewhere we needed to be on the map.
And what would you say? I mean, obviously, we've been seeing for a few years now that there's been disruptions to global supply chains, shippings have been an issue.
Yes.
What are you seeing on the ground?
Look, it's still it's far from settled down. These issues started due to COVID. Back in early 2020, the initial issue was a shortage of sea freight containers. This was due to typically a lot of the cargo comes out of Asia, predominantly China, and ships around the world. But as various countries were going into lockdown, these containers couldn't get emptied, delivered to factories or returned back to the port. So there was just a slowdown in all of the countries, which meant that the empty containers couldn't get back to Asia quickly enough to pick up the next load. So that's how it all started. And with a restriction on the availability of the containers, that resulted in a lot of delayed shipments, but also really huge increases in shipping costs, and also a lot of unreliability in if you were given a schedule, then not necessarily would your cargo actually move according to that. So that's how it all started. However, then, unfortunately, as we went through COVID, the shipping lines who actually own these containers and own the vessels, really they've capitalized on this situation, and we saw all-time record high profits from a lot of the shipping lines over the last 2 years. Okay, if they had been through a tough 2 or 3 years before that, some shipping lines went bankrupt because it was becoming so cutthroat and things. So I can understand to some extent, but it's really been getting out of hand. And what we saw was, orders being cancelled. Like originally, maybe someone had ordered furniture or something from China to ship to, say, Australia or Europe or US, and orders just started to get cancelled because it wasn't worth shipping anymore. So that was really at the peak time that we saw that. I would say it has improved over the past 6 months or so. Rates have started to drop down to some extent. Still a long way off what they were pre-COVID. I would say they're still kind of at least triple what they were pre-COVID. But they have subsided a little bit. The main challenge right now is the issues in Shanghai. So, there's a strict lockdown that hopefully we're coming out of soon. But for the past month or so, it's been very difficult in Shanghai. There's hundreds of vessels literally queuing to get into Shanghai. And that really messes up the schedule for the whole world, really. And part of the issue is that the factories, also restricted, so they also can't get workers to the factories. They can't complete products in time. So what we're expecting is, as we come out of the lockdown, that actually we might go into more severe lack of supply again on the containers, because there'll be a backlog of a lot of cargo and product that needs to be shipped out. that's kind of been delayed. So we're kind of bracing ourselves for that at the moment.
Are you seeing perhaps any moves amongst any of your clients to source more locally, given these issues?
To some extent, I would say, but it is a challenge, right? Especially in this industry, I would say, and especially in gaming. There's the specific suppliers that are really experts in producing slot machines or playing cards or table games, and so I think it's hard to get away from those really experienced, reputed, licensed, suppliers that have all the relevant accreditations and things. But yeah, for some other products, yes, we have seen that move a little bit to move more locally.
So I were to put you on the spot, what would you say during your career has been the hardest thing, biggest challenge that you've had logistically? You had any sort of strange requests for decoration in one of the resorts, or?
Yeah, a couple probably. I remember one issue actually many years ago when actually for Sands, for Venetian, when Sheldon Adelson was coming in, and I think this was on the Four Seasons and on the Venetian Macau project. And the suite that he needed to stay in that night, the presidential suite or chairman's suite, was missing the cushions off the chair in his suite. And these were actually in China. And we got the call at like 6 p.m. that evening that he was arriving at midnight and these had to be there. And at that point, you can't move cargo across the border. Customs were already closed. So I said, look, how urgent is this? Do you really, really need these items? I said, yeah, just do what it takes. So the only way to do this was to really go over to China and hand carry these over. So I personally did that, actually. Found the truck in the middle of the night and bought these cushions and delivered them at about 11:30 to Venetian. So that was a memorable occasion. But lots of challenging events. We've had, we've done charters of planes. It was 747 once for urgent cargo that had to come in for one project right before Christmas, which is the most difficult time for air freight. So this is also what makes it exciting now, all these unforeseen issues that come up.
Good fun, all good fun. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think it's an interesting time. I think the logistics has been very challenging throughout the whole COVID situation, but I think there's also a lot of other changes going on. It's still unclear how things will develop moving forward in the gaming industry. Macau is a little bit. It's very challenging, I would say, just with the restrictions that are still in place. I think all businesses in Macau are really feeling that after 2.5 years. So that continues to be a big challenge for us. But we have our eyes open to more other markets where we can grow and where we think there's potential. And that's really our focus now, to grow in Vietnam, grow in Indonesia. Also the Middle East, I think that's very interesting. I was there just a few weeks ago. For hospitality, Saudi Arabia has really huge plans. So we have also set up a partnership there. But also for gaming, I think that's also, we're eager to watch that with Wynn announcing their project there. It will be interesting to see if that leads on to other projects. We saw MGM and Caesars, I think, are established already in the UAE with their hotel brands. So, Middle East is an exciting market for us to watch.
Okay, well, lovely. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your expertise.
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Please join us every Friday for our series of interviews with thought leaders in Asia's gaming industry.